Welcome to Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. I'm Evan J. Cholfin from Lexhammer, where we help brands that help you live healthier. Today, I'm joined by Demi Oloyede, CEO and founder of Limpiar, who's revolutionizing the commercial cleaning industry through eco-friendly practices and innovative technology. Demi, thanks for being here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Evan. I'm excited. Ready to go.
Me too. How did this whole thing get started with Limpiar? I'd love to hear the story.
Of course, definitely. So I moved to the country about 8 years ago. I'm originally from Lagos, Nigeria. And when I first moved here, I took on cleaning jobs to support myself through college. After I graduated college, I bought my first multifamily property unit and realized I couldn't find any cleaners. And I realized it was a disconnect because when I was a service provider, I couldn't find anybody who wanted my services. And now I have so many units and I can't find anybody to actually come in and clean that. And that's when I realized that there was definitely a gap in the market. And I was in a very good position as someone who had experienced pain points from both sides of the market to come together and create an ecosystem that solved that problem. But yeah, so that's how Olympia was born.
That's fantastic. And where are you today?
So we're based out of Dallas, Texas. We've grown our ecosystem right now. We have over 10,000 cleaners that are signed up on our platform. We're partnered with 11 different companies, but these are companies that have multi-locations. So they have multiple locations. And the beauty of our platform is you can pretty much spin up every single one of your locations on the platform and assign services via the platform as well.
That's amazing. So you've grown quite a bit.
We have.
So what made you recognize the need to change in traditional cleaning methods?
So we started off in the residential space, and as someone who'd, constantly dealt with allergies through harmful cleaning products, I knew that in doing this, I wanted to go a different direction and I wanted to make sure that the products that we're using and the methods that we're using were safe and sustainable. Cleaning and waste management is the third largest industry in the US. However, there's not a lot of regulation around, how we dispose of waste and also the type of products that get used. So every single thing needs to be cleaned. You're interacting with a lot of chemicals and a lot of products depending on where you go, the food you eat, the places you sit, where you sleep. There's so many different places and so many different products you're interacting with. And I want it to be very, very intentional, especially for people who have constant allergies or have bad chemical reactions when they go out.
Yeah, I know. I definitely do. So I'm glad that you're doing it. So how does Limpiar's approach differ from what's conventional out there?
So the way that our approach differs is we really do a top-down analysis when we work with our clients. So when we're doing an intake with our clients, we're understanding what they're currently using and we're making recommendations for substitution. A lot of times, property managers don't really have the time to focus on the specific products that they're putting on their property and dispersing to their customers. They're just like, as long as it's clean, as long as it's this, like we're pretty much good. But there's a lot health benefits. There's a lot more health benefits that can come from doing that. So that's our approach, is really sitting down, having those tough conversations, making those recommendations and moving and spinning from that. And it could be something as simple as a type of product that we're using, or it could be something as complex as more the systems that they have, HVAC, different things that like the air filters that they have within their buildings. So it really depends on what the current state is and what the future state should look like.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm curious, what best-in-class cleaning practices have been most effective?
I would say the most effective is definitely green cleaning. That's been the most effective. And there's another method of cleaning that's actually coming up, and this is recycled products cleaning. A lot of people don't know, and there's technology today in the market that actually takes things like soda, mineral water, and stuff like that, and converts that to cleaning products. And what that's essentially doing is that's creating a kind of an upcycling, right? Where it's like waste products aren't really waste products. They can be converted into more things. And what that does, it also helps commercial property managers save money on buying some of these things that's in it because it's like you have a machine or you have something that can make it on property.
Yeah, it's amazing. What are some of the things that could be upcycled?
So that's one of the things that could be upcycled. Another thing that can be upcycled That's really, really interesting. And we started piloting this with a couple of the businesses that we're working with. So, coffee waste, right? A lot of coffee shops dispose of their coffee waste. Like they throw it in the trash or like we're done with it. However, we were working with a store out in the Dallas area and they were throwing this constantly. And we had our cleaners were assigned to that. So they saw the waste. I was actually approached by someone. And what this guy does is he takes waste from coffee and then they recycle that and make skincare products. So they make face masks, they make body scrub, they make like a whole bunch of different things out of it. And that's just an example of like something that could be upcycled. I have this whole philosophy where it's like waste is not really waste. It's only waste if like someone doesn't want it, right? That's when it actually becomes trash and becomes rubbish. But when you really look down at it, it's a lack of systems that are in place to actually get the things that are considered waste to the next location where they can actually be valuable for use by somebody else.
Yeah, that's really smart. So I'm curious, do you balance sustainability with meeting client expectations?
Of course, people think that there needs to be some type of like balance, like either you're sustainable or you're like, you're doing like, there needs to be like, but you could do what you do and be sustainable. It's really about making the right choices at the end of the day. And that's the disconnect is people don't know what the right choices are. And we're in a space and we're at a time that making these choices are not as expensive as they were years ago, right? Like they're literally in some situations, they cost less. And even for businesses, right? There's a lot of tax breaks and benefits that they actually get from being sustainable and they get from actually disposing their waste properly. A huge conversation I was having with an associate a couple days ago, we're talking about cardboard boxes, right? And we're talking about how much money Amazon's losing because they have to keep producing these boxes. But a lot of times, like when you look at the dumpster, you see a lot of these like cardboard boxes. There's a lack of system to actually collect these boxes and take them back where they can be reused. What essentially happens is someone goes to a trash pickup, they pick up everything, they take it to a trash center. Most of that is thrown away. It's put in landfills, it's chopped up into tiny little bits, and they make whatever out of it. None of that is actually thrown back again into the economy to actually help with other things. And it's like we're producing every time when we could just be upcycling, right? Like there's so much more cost savings in actually upcycling things versus reproducing.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that there's actually savings to be had. And when you can communicate that to the clients, then it makes perfect sense for them to be on board. That's
Definitely.
really smart. So, what type of commercial spaces do you serve best?
So I want to say that our best clients are national brands. So brands that have multiple locations, right? Right now we have a client who is an ER clinic, right? They have about 16 different locations out in the Dallas, Texas area while it spans through the different metroplex cities. That's a client that we're able to serve well because they have those different locations and they want to coordinate services across those different locations. That's an ideal client for us. Once they have those multiple locations, so that's what we're looking at. How can we aggregate that and bring them all onto our platform and start to do some of these benefits to them?
And how do you measure the environmental impact of your services?
So the environmental impact of our services is definitely one key thing that we offer. And the way that we measure this is we measure what's diverted and we measure what actually ends up going into the trash. So those are the key things we look at, mostly the diversion. What did we save? What did we upcycle? What were we able to redistribute and re-enter back into usage versus what was actually like thrown in the trash? Like when you work with a medical clinic, like a lot of things need to go in the trash because it's medical, like it can't be reused. But there's a lot of situations, especially when you're working with restaurants, where things don't need to go to the trash. They can actually go to like more avenues where people can reuse them. Another thing that we've done very well is we have reduced trash overflow. Some of the customers that we work with, typically there's like trash days, right? So it's like the trash got the pickup trash guys come on like Tuesday and Thursday. But because they're disposing of so much waste, by Wednesday, the trash is overflowing and now they're getting tickets from the city because they have overflowing trash. What we're able to do is we're able to come in, look at what's actually going out the window and redistribute that so that they're not getting those overflows that they would typically be getting if they weren't redistributing.
Yeah, I'm sure you mentioned restaurants. There's a lot of food waste that's coming out, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of food waste that's coming out. And one thing that we're exploring right now is we're exploring strategic partnerships. There's a company that we're talking to that's also in the Dallas area. So what they do is they work with brands, well, mostly food chain stores like Kroger, and I think they're with Target right now. So what they do is they get an inventory list of the food that's available. And then when Target or these brands decide that they can't sell them anymore, they connect them to a local charity nearby or a soup kitchen. And then they go there and pick them up. And we're trying to see how we can apply that model to some of these restaurants so that they're not throwing away that food often, or even if they have to, they're giving it to people that need. And what that does is that helps them with that corporate social responsibility as well. You're helping people in need, but then you're also disposing of stuff that you don't necessarily need. It could be a win-win for everybody. And that's the system that we're trying to create, where it doesn't have to cost too much. It's not expensive to be sustainable. It's just impactful for the company and for the recipient as well.
Yeah, it's already good food and they're getting rid of it anyway, then yeah, it makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense. That's great. So, what's been your biggest challenge in transitioning clients to eco-friendly solutions?
Of course, I would say that a big challenge that we have sometimes is some people are married to what they're currently doing, even if it's not the best. And a lot of times you're dealing with property managers who have been in this industry since before I was born. And so then I'm talking to them and letting them know, like, these are the benefits. And they're like, no, not really. And I think some people still think that sustainability is a hoax, especially when it's environmental sustainability. But then when we introduce that social element and that people element, they actually start to get it, because at the end of the day, like, people are going to be empathetic to other people versus the environment. And I hate that it's such a political thing now, where it really shouldn't be. It's just, do you care for your surroundings? Do you care for where you live? That's really what it should come down to, and nothing political. So I would say that's definitely been one of the tough things where people don't understand, or they try to make it political instead.
Yeah, how do you overcome that when you face that?
So when we approach sustainability, we try to approach sustainability from a people lens instead of an environmental lens. And that's what wins. Environmental, not everybody believes that climate change is a thing or that the environment is suffering, but people see other people suffering and people can empathize with other people needing stuff in some sense. And they can also empathize with like the CSR goals. Every organization has CSR goals, right? So anything that helps them stand out is definitely good for the brand. So that's the way that we approach that, instead of focusing on like the environmental benefits of it all.
Yeah, it's really interesting. What common misconceptions do you encounter about green cleaning?
Yeah, I think one of the main things is that it's expensive. It's more expensive. That's a huge misconception that we encounter. Another thing is that it's not as effective. I have family members who still bleach everything because they believe that if it doesn't have bleach in it, it's not good, right? So that's something we're constantly battling as well, where it's like, hey, it doesn't need to like smell like you're gonna die before it actually feels like it's gonna do something. So that's definitely a misconception, and we find different ways to really attack and like tackle that. But yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, a lot of eco-friendly cleaning products are at a premium. Does that affect your profitability? And if so, how do you manage that?
Not at all, actually. So a lot of eco-friendly products, especially when it comes to cleaning, they're no longer at a premium because they need to compete with the other more established brands. If this was like 10 years ago, yes, they were at a premium, and you definitely had a lot of these brands that were charging a premium but weren't even eco-friendly, right? And they've had multiple lawsuits that were filed against them. I don't want to mention any specific brands right now, but there's been a lot of them that have had those lawsuits. But now there's more stringent laws in the industry that prevents the greenwashing from happening, at least, right? There's a lot more like laws and more accountability and like testing that's happening, that's actually like putting these things, out there and making it safer. And it's really easy. It's been easier to actually find some of these eco-friendly cleaning products versus, a long time ago. There's a lot of people that are out there like actually manufacturing now. So it's really helped to drive down the costs a lot.
That's really great to hear. What challenges do you face in training staff on sustainable practices?
I wouldn't necessarily say that we face any straight challenges in training staff. I think I've been lucky and we've really been lucky to get people who once we sign on, once everything's ready to go, like they're very, very engaged and they're really looking to make that change. I think our sales team and our onboarding team does a really good job at that part. So when it's time to actually do the hard work, it's like everybody's already like we're good to go at this point.
That's great. What's your approach to finding people who align with your sustainable practices?
Of course, I would say our approach is finding people. We don't find people that specifically align, but we share the vision of what that looks like. And the reason for that is because a lot of people don't believe in green cleaning or eco-friendly cleaning. So they approach it with the mindset that it's a hoax or that it doesn't work, it's not effective, or they've probably just never heard of it, right? Like people are so married to like the bleach and like all the vinegar and like the toxic chemicals that they use that they don't know better and they don't know otherwise. So it's been a very, very easy training process actually, where we let them know the first thing is having the skill set. Once you have the skill set, everything else can pretty much be taught from there.
What makes it challenging to differentiate yourself in the commercial cleaning market?
Okay, what makes it challenging? This is a deep question. When we engage with our clients, I would say maybe pricing. Pricing may be one thing because one of the things that we do is when we price out contracts, we want to make sure that our cleaners and our service providers are actually making enough money off of that and they can actually feed their family and they can actually afford insurance and afford different things. And I think that, especially within a market like this, there's a lot of like undocumented labor sometimes, and that can drive down the prices dramatically, right? Like you have someone who's willing to do a service for like $100 and the market rate for that service is $4,000. You can't compete in that situation. But then it really comes down to morality of the property managers and morality of the clients, where it's like, hey, in a good world, like it's not even fair to accept this offer at this price. And what typically happens in those situations is, you have property managers go for something that's super cheap. And in the next 2, 3 months, a churn happens and they're begging, like trying to find somebody to actually come in and actually do the real deal, because charging $100 a month or charging such low prices, it's not sustainable for anybody to make a living in the country. So they always come back and they always say like, we're sorry, we made a mistake. Can you come back and actually take over for this contract? It might be that the service provider stopped showing up. It might be that they're not doing a good job in the first place because they probably priced so low because they wanted to get in and they realized that they couldn't continue to provide the service.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting and good that they come to you afterward. So I'm curious, how are you planning to expand your sustainable cleaning services?
Of course. So we plan to expand by just going after demand, right? As I said, this is the third largest industry, so everybody needs this. I think our expansion is not an issue. Our main thing is we need to be focused on the solution that we're providing and not stray from that, right? Because the demand is so high, it's so easy to say like, hey, let's go this way, let's go do this one, let's go do something else instead. The challenge is going to be like actually staying focused and actually being able to execute and serve according to what our mission is.
Yeah. And what technology investments are you prioritizing?
So we have our own platform that we use. So we roll out our platform. It's a web-based platform. We roll out our platform for property managers. And then the other side of that, for our cleaners and service providers, we also have a web-based platform for the managers. And then we have mobile applications that they can use to track their teams. They can use to start jobs, fill out information about the jobs, payouts, taxes, and things like that. So that's just our own proprietary technology that we use.
That's great. And how do you educate potential clients about sustainable cleaning benefits?
So we do that on calls that we have with them. That's done during the review process. Actually, that's when we'll go in and when we start asking the questions and start making the recommendations, then we'll do some education in between that, because typically we have objections where people don't even know what it is. So that's typically when we're doing the education.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. So what new service areas are you exploring?
Yeah, so we've been pretty much open. Like, we're in Texas right now. Of course, we've explored most of the cities out here in Texas. We're exploring California as well, and exploring some other areas. I would say we definitely do a lot of like one-off jobs in certain areas, but it's just a matter of understanding the market in those areas, the demand, being able to drum up enough demand to actually go in and take a hold of the market.
Yeah, that's great. And I understand that you also are looking at other types of services to provide. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So we are looking at expanding from cleaning. We already do cleaning and waste management, but going into more building services, so electrician services, maintenance services, just other services that really takes to run a building. Really, that's where we're going.
It's exciting. How do you see the commercial cleaning industry evolving?
I definitely feel like it's expanding. It's going to continue to expand as long as people go to retail spaces and actually leave their homes. So I continuously see it expanding. I see it evolving. I think there's going to be a lot of technology in this area. In the nearest future, some of the technology is going to revolve around robotics, right? That's definitely going to be a huge thing that's going to come as well. But I think that there's a limitation that a lot of these robots are going to have. And then, a lot of these things will need to be filled in by human effort, which means that, it's definitely going to change in the direction of more specialized skills versus just like everyday, any other day type of skills.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of what you're doing may be more complicated for a robot to be able to make sure to sort out the coffee grinds, for
Yeah.
example.
Yes,
I
exactly.
mean, more programming, I guess. I don't know, might be more complicated.
I would say like in the nearest future.
What innovations in sustainable cleaning excite you the most?
I would say it's definitely, I think my excitement and my interest really lies between like the upcycling aspect of cleaning. So some of the innovations is what you can make out of waste. Like, that's definitely something very exciting, because there's a lot, like, I think just straying away from the mentality that stuff is waste when it's really not waste, and seeing all the amazing things that it can actually turn into is like pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's great. So, 12 months from now, what do you see as success for you and the company?
Definitely. 12 months from now definitely means customer acquisition is going up, onboarding more clients, onboarding more service providers onto the platform, rolling out more features on our platform as well, and just really getting across our revenue metrics is definitely going to be a big win.
Yeah, I can see that happening for you, especially with your model and everything that you're providing. I'm really excited to see your company grow.
Likewise, I'm very excited. I'm in the front seat, so I got to be excited.
That's right. Well, that's it for today's episode of A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. A huge thank you to Demi for sharing her insights and the amazing work Limpiar is doing to help people live healthier, happier lives. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit. And if your brand or business is making an impact in health, wellness, or personal care to help you grow, connect with me at luxhammer.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep making a difference.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Take care.